Hi, everybody. Um, I'm off work for a week, not because I have to be isolated, but there's no work for me because where I work went online for a week due to um, others that needed to stay home. So uh, um, I feel for those that are being forced not to work. And so that's what this video is about. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on and solutions and things that you can do um, in the meantime while the world crumbles apart. Um, One of the things I wanted to mention is the prices of food is just going ridiculous, along with gas. Um, we just drove to Oregon a couple times in the last month, and the gas there is $1 a gallon cheaper than in California. So um, on average, it's like 4.39 or 4.56 or whatever a gallon here, but it's like 3.30 something or 3.49 or whatever there. So yeah, um, I do have a dream or a vision that I have. I'll show it to you in a second, but eventually, when we see it creep up to like around $5 a gallon, I always tell my husband, "Well, it's going to be $8 someday," because that's what the Lord showed me. Um, I'll get to that in a second. I'll show you that video, but right here, if you can see, please prepare buy some seeds, food sources now. A year ago, I'm not the only watchman or watchwoman that has pleaded with everyone that subscribes to get prepared and be ready for when the power or food supplies are cut off. We're already, we've been seeing shortages for the last year or so with certain things at certain places. I mean, I've even driven through Carl's Jr. Um, randomly for 2 to 3 months, and they were out of ranch packets. So yeah, I mean, just random things, or like Starbucks having no caramel for their coffees. Now, who cares about that, right? But it's gonna hit you when there's no actual food, or the food is very limited, and we're already seeing that increasing this now. I mean, because of all the situation that we've had to deal with, which I don't need to say or spell it out because then you know I don't need to have the powers that be notice anything with my video. But um, we've seen shortages, and then they've also got all the barges out there off the coast of, uh, at least for California. They don't have enough staff or manpower to get all those ships in and unloaded for whatever reason. You know, supplies are limited, and we're seeing that, and it's going to get tighter and tighter. So as you see any deals, and as you have the funds, I suggest you still stock up on foods that you normally eat and that are, have a longer shelf life. If not, some of the dehydrated foods that you can get, fruits and vegetables that are dehydrated, so that you could still obtain those even if they're not um, abundant on the shelves, especially because California is starting to see another water shortage as well. So the crops are not going to be that great. Um, but this was a year ago, 5 years ago, pray and prep. 3 years ago, I had a dream, ailments, no food or water, persecution and fear. And we've seen all of these, right? Starting with almost 2 years ago. And no home, no food, no water 2 years ago is the word the Lord gave me. And we're starting to see this now with big layoffs, or, you're fired um, for insubordination because of certain things. So you can always grow a garden, but now that it's fall and winter, unless you have a greenhouse, that's limited as well. So stock up, the best you can. I know I went to the grocery store yesterday in my small town where I live, and it was crazy some of the prices that they're asking for things. It was just really crazy. And a lot of things are double in price. I'm not joking. I'm going to have to do a video on that and actually show prices from the shelves because it's crazy. But you can also order online. You can use retailers, Walmart, that offers free shipping, Costco.com if you have a membership. You can order some food and supplies online. All right, so this article from the counter, why is the cost of food rising so fast? The answer is complicated. So it's a really short article. The wholesale cost of food has spiked a whopping 8.3% since late last August, the highest increase since the U.S. Labor Department began calculating wholesale food inflation in 2010, writes the Washington Post. Why have prices been rising so fast? It's complicated. Of course it is, but it's not so complicated because we know what we've been dealing with for 2 years. Producers and manufacturers have struggled to keep up with the changing consumer demands over the course of the last 2 years. Shipping issues continue to abound, which I mentioned, including a shortage of containers and add a drought in California, which we have started to see in the last year, again, with the fires, labor shortages across many industries. I wonder why there's such a labor shortage. Heat waves in the Pacific Northwest, and a scarcity of plastic for packaging due to a cold snap that shut down a number of factories last year, as well as chlorine tablets for pools because, like, you couldn't get the small ones for like spas or above ground pools. You can only get the large ones for in ground pools or granules. I guess one of the three major chlorine factories had to shut down as well. Grocery store prices could ease a little next year. Wow, probably after the winter, maybe in the springtime, the Post writes, but consumers should expect to see higher prices in many areas. Well, that's already been happening. Okay, then I have here U.S. consumers once again dealing with empty store shelves and product limits. So some of the shelves look like this, or even clothing racks. Like my daughter-in-law, when we were in Oregon, they went to the Walmart to get some warmer clothes for the kids, and literally they couldn't find hardly anything for the size she needed for her daughter and son, or for the baby. So she bought like a sleeper for the baby that was like a zip-up sleeper. But even clothing, okay. So they said something is interrupted somewhere in the food chain, whether it's packaging or containers or labor or the trucking to get it off the warehouse dock. And that's true. Some of the truckers have lost their jobs as well. And the price of gas is so expensive, costing more for the containers and for the truckers to get those goods everywhere. Probably workers not wanting to work in the factories to make them, or they're sitting waiting to get unloaded. So Eshelman said he has a 40% shortage of inventory each week. Keep shelves looking full. when Eshelman can get something in large supply, he does. Or I would have to say, yes, we do a little hoarding ourselves, just like consumers do. This is not the way he wants to do business. Sad, empty shelves don't make money. Empty shelves don't pay paychecks. No one knows when this will change. So my advice is stock up when you can. Instead of buying 2 cans of chili, buy 6 or 8. Okay, especially if you can get like a Fab Five at Albertsons, where if you buy 5 of the same item, it's like a whole lot cheaper. Um, bulk up like that while you can before they're gone. Okay, this has to do with some of it. I can't really say it out loud. Okay, some employees are out of work, okay, because of a certain reason here. And that's what I wanted to talk about mainly too, was, we're seeing this in certain job fields at the moment, but it's going to expand. It's just going to expand and be more constricting. So, and here's another one. So I'll leave you to read the title. So I just wanted to bring up some ideas that may help you, because my husband hasn't been faced with this yet. They're still in deliberations, the union rep with lawyers. Um, and some businesses, they won't even offer, a way out. Some people are offering TESTING, and that would have to be, every week, but some are not. And so if it comes down to doing it, or you don't have any work, then my husband's able to retire, and that's what he'll do. And then we have to downsize our bills and whatnot and move out of CA, but which we want to do anyway, because it's becoming so bad. Second in line to New York, right? But then what about the other people that have just started and they don't have that option to retire? So here's a little list. This is just a short list, but this is something to pray about. First of all, take everything to the Lord. Ask him what you should do, because he knows what's best. Now, he says in his word that he'll never leave us or forsake us, and that's true. And he says that he cares about us. Every hair on our head is numbered. Cares about us more than the sparrows, which he feeds, the birds of the air. And I told my husband this one time. He cares, he promises to clothe and feed us, right? Doesn't promise us a huge house with fancy cars and, jewelry and like, the finest foods and all the comforts, right? Those are just extra blessings if God enables us to have those. But he promises to feed and clothe us and to take care of our needs, not our wants. Okay? So we have to be of that mindset that if God enables us to be warm and fed, we're blessed because he's taking care of us. So even if that means that at one point we're homeless, like the word he gave me that I just showed you, no home, no food, no water. Okay, so some people are going to be homeless. Does that mean that God's not providing for you? No. Jesus was homeless. He even said he had nowhere to lay his head. in the New Testament. Um, so, and he roamed from home to home, and traveled and preached the good news. So, why should we feel that we deserve more than Jesus did? Number one. So, let's get that mind frame fixed in our mind right now, that even if we were to be homeless, if we had food and clothing, and we had, our car to be a shelter or whatever, that literally God would be with us, okay? And he would not have forsaken us. So some possibilities are apply for a job elsewhere, possibly in another state. So go towards those redder states. Go where there's less restrictions. Go where God leads you. Go where they're not going to force you to do anything for your particular field, your job. Apply and get a job in another state in your field that you work in, and then sell your house here, or if you're renting, end your rent lease and move. So that's one option, and more people have this option than you think. Okay, we're not constrained to be where we're at. God can provide wherever we go, and maybe there's a reason that you need to move. Okay. So even though my husband will retire eventually, maybe sooner than later, who knows? For sure he's going to retire by August, so in 10 months. But if it has to be sooner, it'll be sooner. But we will be moving out of California for sure, because just the way it's going and with all the restrictions. Okay. Start a private business. This guy is so I recommend you go see some of his videos. He's on YouTube. Frugal Off-Grid Arizona Homestead. This guy right here, I forget his name, sorry. I haven't watched any of his videos for a while, but he bought a parcel of land in Arizona out in the desert, like just way out there. Like, I think he said it's like 20 miles. His little parcel is 20 miles from anybody. And he set up his homestead. And when this whole thing started a year and a half ago, I think he didn't have any work. He got laid off. And right here, episode, am I just lost in the Arizona desert, locating my property for the first time? So this was a year ago. So he's been out there for a year with his property, and he's got some animals and garden, but he started his own business. So see the off-grid teas here and some cornmeal. He makes these tea blends, and sells them on Amazon and whatever other, I know it's on Amazon, but anyway, he's got solar set up, he's built slowly to his homestead, but he's an inspiration, and he's proof that if you put your mind to it and you work hard, you can do anything, right? So he's only been working for himself, doing this private business from the desert on his off-grid location, for a year and a half, and he's been blessed. So it's possible. Start a private business. I wish I knew. I'm praying for an idea that I can do, that maybe not just online, because what if the internet goes down, but any kind of business. It could be also a home-based business. I wrote here, start a home-based business. So his is a home-based because he doesn't go anywhere. he does have to go into town, like I said, 20 miles to go ship off his orders, to go mail out his orders. But um, other than that, he's at his home and he can package it up and make it and do his orders and whatever. So, and he also, has animals that he's raising for food and chickens, for eggs. And he's, anyway, he's very ingenuitive. So, um, I suggest watching some of his videos because he's an inspiration. All right. So, a home based business, you can even do like daycare, you could do car repair, you could do whatever like my husband used to be a painter for like 25 years before he became a supervisor for safety. But so he can paint like anything but cars, right? Any kind of building, houses, whatever, um, anything but cars. Uh, so when he retires, he could literally, he could paint people's houses for side jobs. He could apply for his own license and just paint houses. Um, you know, uh, and I'm a tutor, so I could tutor, even if I tutor just online, I could build up my business, especially as there's more people homeschooling now and they need help with math or whatever, writing. So, there's ways that you can also um, make money that don't require being pushed into anything. All right. If you had to, you can move in with relatives or friends that are of the same mindset. So I still have some of my most of my sons living with me, and then one of their wives with the grandkids. And it just helps if you have a big enough house, then it helps cut the cost for everybody. So that's an option as well. And like I said, you could always, you know, move towards that off-grid location and make it so that it's livable and permitted so that you can stay there. Okay, so like my husband, retire, or if you can't retire, apply for a job somewhere else that has less limitations or requirements. Sell your home. So one of my friends, it's like, well, her husband could retire, but she can't. But she could apply to work in a different state if he retired and they had retirement income, and the state they moved to is cheaper. They could sell their house, have a bunch of cash in the bank, his retirement, and they would be just fine. And if she wanted to work, then she could apply to work elsewhere. So, yeah, so you could sell your home, cash out, and you could, use that along with your retirement or starting your own business or whatever. Another, to move. Another friend I have, her and her husband both have private businesses. So, I mean, she cuts hair, and then um, he has a pest control business, but they're both private business owners, so they work underneath themselves, they work for themselves, so they're not underneath anybody that's dictating anything. So that's another option. You could always learn a different trade. Like I could learn to cut hair and get my, beautician license and then start up my own home business, or, renting a small place to do that. So that's an option as well. But you can also, if worst comes to worst, and let's say you have one, like I have my husband's retirement and I don't really have a retirement, but you could sell your home, you'd have cash in the bank, and you could buy an RV or a travel trailer, and you could just travel. And for gas and food, your retirement's going to cover that. What you fill your propane bottles, when they run empty, you you pay for some uh, hookup stays with your trailer or RV when you go to places that have hookups. All right, unless you have a membership to some campsites, and then you could stay free at some locations. Some of the if you have uh, I forget what it's called, but a national parks pass. Not all the national parks are closed because Californians are right now because of all the fires. But if you have a national park pass, you can go to those national parks, and you can enter all of them for an $80 a year fee, right? And then pay like the campground fees if there's a campground fee, and if you're a senior, you can get discounts. But some of the campgrounds in those places are free because they're like the rustic campgrounds, won't have any hookups. But then before you leave the park, you can use their dump site, to dump your tanks. So there's all kinds of options, that you can use. But you could travel and see the countryside, decide where it is that you want to settle down, and maybe park your RV in a trailer park and pay, a minimal 350 to 550 a month fee out of your retirement to park it there. I mean, there's so many options. They're abundant, really. And then, like I said before, learn to live with less. So learn learn to be satisfied with less, right? So the other one I was going to show you that I never did was the gas. It's in here, right here. This was 2 years ago. I got this word like a week ago now. Tried to upload this a day ago, but it didn't work. Not sure when it will skyrocket to $8 a gallon or why. Just heard it will. Gas prices will go up to $8 a gallon. So anyway, I just hope this has been beneficial, and you know, pray, pray without ceasing, the Lord tells us. God bless.